guys, what's up? Welcome to this week's episode of the Small Business Surgeon. I hope you all are having a great Monday so far and ready to get out there and crush the week. Guys, I've got a really special guest today. This fella is a guy that I've come to know over the last few months. We've interacted on a couple of different masterminds together, and man, all around, he's just a really cool dude, man. He has been a real estate investor. He is a small business coach, the co-host of the Destination Success podcast, and he is the author of the best-selling book, Destination Success, 8 Mindset Hacks for Every Entrepreneur. So it is my absolute pleasure to welcome to the show, Sherm Porter. Sherm, welcome.
What's up, man? Sam, it's my honor to be on your podcast, man. I was looking forward to this week, so thank you.
Dude, thank you for coming on, man. Thank you. Boy, where do we even begin with you, dude? Like,
I don't know, man. I don't know if we have enough time for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty sorted affair, but ask away, man. It's one of those things. Like, there's no rock unturned with me. I'll tell you anything.
I like you. I'm looking at your resume right here, and it stretches back, 20 years in business. I mean, that's really impressive. And,
I got out of the Navy, and I told myself that was it. That was my last job for someone else. And I opened up my first business was a commercial cleaning company, and I learned from the street of hard knocks, brother. All right,
well, steady on a sec. So you're in the Navy from 94 to 98, so I'm assuming you're about 6-7 years older than me. I'm early 40s. I'm assuming you're up in there. What was it that triggered that I'm not working for anyone else? Did you have that entrepreneurial mindset as a kid and as a teenager?
Yeah, I did. I really did. My grandfather owned a construction company, and technically I was supposed to be the third generation that took it over. Right. I did start working for my grandfather and then my uncle, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. It was one of those things. It was too hot in the summers. It was too cold in the winters. All these guys hunted and fished, and I was just like the oddball out. That wasn't my cup of tea.
No, I get it.
It was them and me. Constantly, they'd all talk about going to their honey hole to go fishing, or in the winter it was about their little spot, their deer stands, and duck blinds, and I'm like, I got nothing. You know what I mean? So it was like,
where are you based out of? Remind me what town you're in.
I live in Delaware. So
okay.
You were all the way over on the Eastern Shore, and it's awesome, but it was just one of those things. But I'd always wanted, when I was young, I wanted to be a professional baseball player, or I wanted to be Sam Houston. You know what I mean? It was like one of those two things. You know what I mean? You're 10. What the hell do you know? You know what I mean? You can do anything you want in the world. And I wanted to be that tycoon, that guy that sat on the 34th floor of the mirrored building, looking down on everybody, and you that was you had it, you made it. You know what I mean?
I get it.
I had that fire from a really young age, and man, I did all the get rich quick scheme bullshit, selling knives, the NSA water filters. I was in the scam of the home security systems too.
Yeah, but we didn't know any better. We didn't know any better.
I didn't, but it was like, hey, you can do this, and I'm a good people person. I'm good at talking with people. I'm good at connecting with people. I'm good at selling to people things.
Yeah, but it's such a con, because man, I went door to door for a little bit when I was over in England before I obviously came out here, and it was home security systems. Knock, knock, knock. Hello, Mr. Porter. Just want to let you know, my name's Sam. We've got some security experts going to be in the area over the next couple of days, and they're doing free security reviews of the houses in the neighborhood. Just want to let you know, your neighbors have signed up at 5:15 on Thursday, and Mrs. Smith down the road has signed up for 7:30. So if you'd like a free security assessment with no obligation, we can get you in at 6:15 on Thursday. Does that work for you?
Absolutely, why not?
Man. Free, dude. You feel it's such a. You want to get back to the hotel room and take your skin off and then shower on the inside and just clean the inside before you put your skin back on. But I think we've all done it. We've all had to go and cut our teeth. And that's
Well, it was what we thought was, the quicker way to get to the top, and then come to find out, as we all know now, is that you just got to put the work in. You know what I mean? Like 24 years later. There is no shortcut to this. You know what I mean? It's, the only shortcut is there is no shortcut.
And the sooner you understand that,
right.
I would say maybe a shortcut is definitely hiring a coach or a mentor, and they allow you to compress the time. But you can compress time and you can compress lessons, but you can't compress work, man. It has to be done.
You got to go through the motions.
Yes, sir.
You got to figure it out. So it takes, like you said, when you hire a coach or you hire a mentor, what they do is they help you not have as many problems. You're still going to have problems.
Oh yeah.
But you're not going to have as many, and they can weave you through and help you navigate the waters of the everyday problem that most people have gone through, and say, hey, look, if you do this and this, you won't have these problems. But, you can't stop once you get employees, you can't stop what's going to happen next, because it's always the why factor.
Yep.
They quit, they do something silly, they thought they were doing something right, it was wrong, or you have 15 people doing all great shit, and you got 2 that you're constantly on, like, hey, why aren't you like the other 15?
That sounds right.
So
when we were coming up, man, there was no coaches, there was no mentors, there was no YouTube.
Well,
you had to go, they were hard to access.
There was a handful. Right. Because there's only a handful.
And you had to go to the events, and you had to buy the DVDs, and you had to buy the books.
Yeah.
And now
I did.
Oh, I did too.
I got all of Tony Robbins shit. I did.
I discovered Tony Robbins from that Shallow Hal movie. That's how I connected with that. But there wasn't the abundance of information out there now. Like, I want to know something, I just go to YouTube and look it up. Best practices for, and people. Oh, how do you launch a podcast? How do you grow a podcast? I'm like, I don't know. Go on YouTube and read about it. So
I mean, it's and there's schools now. I mean, they have entrepreneur as a degree in colleges now. Like, there's so many community-based things that you can go and get help for loans and grants and everything.
Yeah, but if you don't walk through the fire, how do you become forged into an anvil? You have to learn. There's a lot of this. Right. A lot of this you got to learn by trial and error, coaches or not. You've got to go through it. So,
some of the tests, the best tests are the ones you went through.
When
you were literally facing, am I going to be able to stay open next week, or do I have to close? Because I didn't get the contract that I thought I was going to get, that was going to make and you sit there and you go through that stress, like you said, like put the anvil through the fire to forge it to the right sharpness. And, you sit there and you go, and your mind's racing around, because there is no answer. Like, I don't have, you and I don't have a real job, like where we're doing this part-time. This isn't a part-time hustle. Like, all my bills get paid through the catering company right now, and then I have no doubt. The coaching is the side business, the real estate side business, some of the I do business financing through the coaching stuff, that's all side business, but my real money day to day is through the catering company. And it's great. If anybody was tested, if you didn't make it through 2021 or 2020, it's because you weren't ready. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have the plan in place. You know what I mean? And that's, you got to know. You got to have those, where, Mike Tyson says the best, everybody's ready until they get punched in the face. Then what do you do then? You know what I mean? And that's what 2020 was.
I use that analogy a lot when I'm teaching. Like, when you learn to box, it takes about 6 months of getting hit in the face to be able to understand that the hit's coming and figure out what to do about it. But you still got to stand there and get hit until you learn. And I think a lot of people want to bypass that process. They want to avoid the pain and go straight to the money. And it just, if you get the money without the pain, then the money's fleeting. It comes and goes. Because that's, I did that. I got a lot of money without much pain, and I didn't take care of it. And I think the pain can be a great teacher. Anyway, let's get back on track here, because we're just like rambling all over. It's all good. This is what the show's about, man. It's about sharing stories and sharing experiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
And whatever we can give to the audience that they can take away from it and just make their lives a little bit better. So you got out of the Navy. little bit of time in college, knocked out some business management classes, degree, and then you went on to be president of MJP Properties. And,
Yes.
So tell us about that, because that was a 12-year run, man, and the first business.
It originally started out as Marston's Cleaning Service, and that was a forge of my two sons' names. And I started doing commercial cleaning, and then I started buying properties, and then I started managing properties that I had, and then some other people's properties. So then we just kind of lumped it into one company where we had you either had we had commercial cleaning service, residential cleaning services, or we did property management, or we sold properties through that company. So that's kind of it kind of evolved after a few years. But yeah, it was 14 years. I just hated cleaning. You know what I mean? Like, I love the money. I love the money, but I just didn't like the process of what you had to do to get the money.
Yeah.
It was really good, and that kind of came to an end in 06 and 07. It was one of those things where 06 and 07 happened with the housing crisis, and we did a lot of work for a lot of local builders, and we were doing private schools. And kind of when the financial crash happened, it was one of those, like, is this really what I want to be doing? You know what I mean, kind of thing. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't like this. And I wound up getting divorced at the same time.
Oh,
and I was
man.
like, you know what? I got nothing but me now. Like, so I had a wife, and she had two kids that were younger. So, at the time I had a family, and I was like, you know what? It's just me. There's no better way to get over or get past the grief in the process is to just work your ass off. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to get back into the food business. And I got started with the catering company, and it just kind of took off like wildfire. So I started that in basically like the ambers of the financial crisis of 07 and 08.
Oh,
And
right on.
so I only had one way to go, which was up. I wasn't losing anything because I had just got started. So,
man, I don't think a lot of the
bucks.
Sorry, Sherman. I don't think a lot of the younger listeners, because we do get quite a few in their 20s. I don't think a lot of the younger listeners really understand just how fucked everything was at the end of middle of 2008, end of 2008 as it was crashing. I mean, like, how many people lost their jobs? It was just incredible. Just how messed up it was. So for him to come out at the end of 2008 and open a catering business, and that's huge, man. Mad respect for that, because you're going through a divorce, your other business is tanking because of the recession. I mean, it wasn't you. Everybody's business tanked. I mean, I worked at an office with about 90 employees, and we were all laid off within 2 weeks of each other. Like, the whole thing shut down. And I don't think people realize just the amount of damage that was done in that year to employment and to finances and to businesses. And the fact that you came out and opened it in 2008, right when everything was in the shitter, I mean, big kudos to you, man. Well done. Why'd you pick catering? Was that a passion, or you just was?
So I went to college for hotel restaurant management, and while I was in college, I was working in restaurants, and I always loved entertaining anyway. I used to always have people come to my house, and we'd always have parties and stuff like that. So everything was always, it was just something, like, food was always in my blood. And when I went into the Navy, it was basically to get out of the restaurant business of basically working 80, 90 hours a week, because my son was young, and I had him every other weekend, and it was just basically I worked, and then I partied, and then I had my son. And I was like, this is probably not going to last long. I should probably figure something else out. And college wasn't for me. So then I went in the Navy, and I wound up marrying my youngest son's mother, and she just didn't like being away from the family. So we got out, and then I got back, and then I came in, and I'm like, all right, what can I do that, isn't as bad as drinking all the time and eating all the time, like the restaurant businesses. And that's why I got into into the commercial cleaning company. That's how I started that. So it was just, so then when I got back out, one of my friends was working at a bar that was just opening, and they needed help, and I wound up taking over their kitchen for them, and one thing led to another, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to be back in the food business. I'd always said I wouldn't go back, and then I did. And catering is a little different than running restaurants, and the fact that when you go out to an event, how many people are showing up, or how many people you got paid to show up. So
Hmm.
you bring enough food, you bring enough staff, and that's the toughest thing about running restaurants is that 80 people could show up at 5 o'clock unbeknownst to you. Like
Right,
just
right.
think about it when we're at any of the Stewmans things. There's 60 to 70 of us, and if we all go to one restaurant,
Yeah.
there's 60, 70 people that nobody knew were going to show up that just show up.
And
You know what I
they
mean?
have
So
to have
then
that
now,
capacity. Yeah.
right. So now you're on, you don't know if you have enough staff to wait on those tables. Do we have enough food in the back? That kind of thing. Like, when you're doing catering, we already know all those intangibles going out. There's still some things that could happen, but it's not like you don't have enough staff, or it's not like you don't have enough food for what was planned. You know
It's
what I
a,
mean? So that it
it,
makes it a little easier, but
it
it's
sounds, it
still
sounds
tough.
like a low stress version of a restaurant
Yeah,
catering, because you've got
it's a
so many
lower stress.
you got so many things you're factors on. So tell me about the start of your catering business. You said you were in the back of a pub here and a bar and helping your buddy run his
Yeah,
kitchen.
yeah. So
Tell me how you managed to take that out of that kitchen and grow it into what it was going to become, but grow it into a standalone business. What was stepping out of that safety of that kitchen like?
so I actually I didn't really step out for a while. So the first two, I managed two different kitchens at one time.
Hmm.
One for a club and then one for a bar, a pub, like you said. And then I was one of my friends worked at one of the municipalities, and we took over the kitchen, the cafeteria that was in the building.
Hmm.
Um, and then from there, that was awesome because then I did a city county building, and then I had the county building. So we had two different cafeterias that we were doing at the same time. And then the people started asking me to do in the building. They were like, "Hey, my daughter's going to get married. We're on a low budget. Do you think you could help us out?" And then I saw the real money. I was like, "Ooh, man, this is pretty good money for." Because I had no overhead because I was cooking out of the kitchens that we were
Yeah,
managing.
yeah.
So I just had to find some servers and take the food out there and have the equipment for it. I'm like, yeah, this is some pretty good money. So then we probably did like 6 or 8 weddings the first year, and then I did like 15 the second year. And I was like, I should find my own place. And then that's what I did is I wound up taking over the management of a local fire company because they have halls. And then I was like, and I was still managing the government cafeteria. And
Right.
then like the first year we did like 55 events at this hall. The second year we did almost 155. And I was like, this is it. Like this is how we make money. So then I just started making relationships in the community with other venues that would allow caterers in. And then I was so big that I was just too big for that
So
little kitchen that I was in.
what was the critical decision that you took or that you made to scale from 50 your first year to 150 your second year? What caused that, do you think?
I just agreed to money. I mean, to be honest with you, I just, like
Oh goodness.
you want to keep doing, you want to keep making more money, and you want to be able to hire more people, and you got to keep, so that's the business, like
I'm
it
trying to
was
pull the
about growing the
tactics. I'm
business.
trying to pull the tactics out of you, and it's like, nah,
Yeah,
just
but
money.
I mean, but in the beginning, there was no tactics. I didn't have a formal education with a coach. It was just the greed of I want more, and I want more people working. And in order to have more people working, you have to make more money. You know what I mean? Like, so I didn't have a really good system in place at that time. It was crazy how many employees I was going through. After I got to a certain level, then I realized, I keep making the same damn mistakes. Like the same shit keeps happening over and over and over again. And I keep telling myself it's not me, but it keeps happening, and I'm the only one that's still standing here. So it has to be me. You know
If
what I mean?
you,
So that
yeah,
and that's when I figured out, hey, I gotta stand back now. Like, because I started feeling like I was killing myself. Like,
dude, that's
you know, that
that's really hard because you don't realize that you're making the mistakes. Then when you do step back, you say, well, shit, I'm the constant here. The
right.
employees are the variables, and I'm the constant. So do me a favor, mate. Talk us through a few of the mistakes. What was the one or two biggest things that stood out to you most that looking back now you can say, oh shit, man, I was doing that wrong.
So the first one is just my communication to everyone else.
Hmm.
Um, I'm third generation military, so I had a very militant mindset. Um, of I was raised and taught that you do it right, do it one time, you do it right, you don't do it again.
Hmm.
And most, I would say, 89 to 98% of the population isn't raised that way.
True.
So
Yeah.
how I would speak, I could have been speaking, as far as anybody else is concerned, I was speaking in Greek, and they weren't hearing a word I was saying, and I would get frustrated. And it was just the first real true thing was to learn how to communicate effectively, communicate to anyone that was around me, so they understood what I was trying to convey. And
And
it wasn't easy because I just didn't know how to do it.
is
You know what I
that
mean? Like
is that more about you learning to communicate with them, or is it about you learning how they like to be communicated with?
I think it's a blend of both.
Okay.
It's not really one or the other. It's kind of like you have to. So the biggest thing, I think, the biggest lesson I learned in this whole thing is DISC. So DISC is a system where you evaluate people's personalities and their traits and
Uh-huh.
how they react to things. And the sooner, especially as you're scaling your business and you're going to have key players, the sooner you figure out that, the quicker you're going to gel, because that's how you know how to talk to each other. Because like how they communicate to me is different than how I need to communicate to them.
Yeah.
So when people talk to me, it needs to be short, sweet, and quick and direct. And then when I'm talking to
Yes.
them, I have to do more of a song and dance with them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have to do more of a book and a story versus cliff notes,
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But when you're supposed to be directly talking to me about something and you want something from me, I want how many, when, now, what has to be fixed. Okay, I got it. I'll take care of it. For them, when you're doing it, you kind of have to softly go through the motions 9 times out of 10. But it works best that way when they understand how to talk to you and then how you should be talking to them when
Yeah.
you want something from them. So
Yeah.
it's key. It's critical, especially when you're going to hire. I mean, right now I only have 25 to 30 people, which is, for most people, like, wow, that's a lot. It is a lot, but
Yeah.
there's other companies that have 2, 3, 4, 500,000 people. When you get to those sizes, it's super critical because you could have 50 people doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And really wasting money and time because you're not properly communicating the message to them. The next thing I think was huge and critical is it's kind of like what Thomas talks about is your core values, but
Mm-hmm.
it leads into a book. It's called Traction, and
Yes. Yes.
Traction has to do it's core values and seats on the bus, and you it was the because we are made of the cloth we're made as entrepreneurs, we basically can kind of be a chameleon and adapt to almost everything. But the average person can't. The average person is made to do one thing, maybe two, and they're not good at adapting or becoming a chameleon to do other things. So what you have to figure out is what are they good at, and make sure you put them on that. That's the seat in the bus they ride in, because
Yeah.
we're all riding in the same bus. So
Yeah.
you have some drivers, you have some people in the middle that are artists. You have other
Mm-hmm.
people that do certain things. You got the conductors, you got the people in the back, you got the conductors, you
Yeah.
have all that kind of stuff, and you got to figure out who they are, even though they apply for one thing that may not be where they're really good at. You
Right.
know what I mean? But and that's part of the core value is that here's what we do and we do it well. But you also have to figure out, even though they say they're a good engineer, are they really a good engineer? You know what I mean? Maybe they're better at advertising, or maybe they're
Yeah.
better at sales. They just don't know it.
Right.
They've never defined themselves as a salesperson. But because again, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna be frustrated because they're a really good person and they come to work and they bust their ass, but they're not good at what they do. So then
Right.
what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then you get frustrated because you're paying somebody to actually do something and they're not doing it. You know
What
what I mean? So it's a
I
tough
find
thing.
like now again, as my company's evolved and the way we bring on staff has evolved, I find that the core values and the work ethic are far more important than the skill set, because even if I can't match them to the position that I'm trying to fill, if they've got the right values and they've got the right work ethic and everything lines up, I'm going to find somewhere for them. We're going to find a
Right.
spot and we're going to make it work, because the values and the work ethic are worth more to me than the skill set, because I can train skills. I can't train work ethic, and I can't
Right.
train core values. You've either
Right.
got them or you don't. So
Right.
yeah.
And sometimes you have to understand that. So interaction also, they teach you that, what's the longevity of this position and that person. So sometimes, you have to understand this person may only be here for 3 to 6 months because
Right.
it's a gap filler. You know what I mean? Like you need this person in this position for 3 to 6 months, and then they're going to move on, and then you will find maybe the permanent person for that position. To lead you into the promised land. But you just it's. I think it's huge once you figure out how to be a really effective um, communicator and an effective coach and effective leader. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because that's really like like you said, I can teach anyone to do almost every position in this company. I can teach anyone to do it. But if they don't want to do it or don't want to come to work or they don't have the ethics and all the other stuff, I can't teach that. I can't teach them to wake up and come to work every day. You know what I mean? You can't teach somebody to do that. You can't teach them to come in and have a good attitude when they're at work. You can try to help them, but you can't teach that. But I can teach them how to make a sauce. I can teach them how to pack up a van. I can teach them how to serve at a wedding, or all those kind of things. But
no, absolutely.
It's the core value part of it you can't teach, and that's a key part of making sure you're getting the right people. Because when things happen, again, I hate to always keep going back to 2020, but when the shit hits the fan like it did in 2020, if you don't have core values, they're not going to stick around.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to, you guys aren't blended together as one hard team. For some of you guys, you didn't have the kick in the face that we did. In the food industry, we got slammed. This is the first time in American history that food has been shut down.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, so like, if you didn't have really good, strong core values that, hey, this is the plan, this is what we're going to do, we're all in it together, we get it, and because it wasn't easy. I mean, it was the first time in 24 years I had to lay people off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's not an easy thing, man.
And that's not your fault as the business owner either. You've built a successful business. You're doing everything you can, and
we had our best year in 2019 going into 2020, like our best year ever. We were coming in like screaming, like, yeah. And then, it was basically somebody like somehow the front two wheels on the bus fell off and we ran into the guardrail. And I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, man, it was rough everywhere though. I mean,
in certain industries, it was rough. It was definitely rough.
My real estate company and PPP loans kept my media company running. I mean, just nobody. Now COVID has changed the way we communicate, it's changed the way we do business, the way we advertise, everything. And more people are seeing the need for effective media pieces. And my media company now is busier than it's ever been. It's insane. Like, we're struggling to keep up, and we're onboarding new staff, and we're looking at bigger offices. But when COVID hit, it wiped us out. Every single client paused every single job. I don't think we had a paid job in about 3 months. We were going out making community videos for free. But now that business has come back, the pipeline is stronger than ever and the demand is there. What have you seen in the catering industry as things start to come back online? Are you seeing a stronger demand with more disposable income?
Nah, I mean, so because we do weddings, that's not, they don't necessarily consider that disposable income, but it is disposable income. Like, they have plans for this and they're willing to spend because it's a once in a lifetime like event. Like, this isn't
for some people.
Well, I've been married and divorced twice, so you know what I mean. Like, it may be 2 or 3, but the idea of it is, I have the Holy Trinity. I have the baby mom and the 2 ex-wives. So
I'm just trying not to laugh. I'm sorry, mate.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool. You gotta embrace it.
That's funny.
But it's not. I don't think it's that it this. So the problem with us in the catering industry is that we normally have 2 or 3 legs, and one of our decent sized legs is corporate events.
Right.
It's corporate catering, corporate events. So,
dude, those got slammed.
Haven't come back to work yet. I mean, they're slowly trickling open. We've had some really, really great corporate clients that we've had for years that, are huge and they're doing things regardless. But like the average corporate clients just aren't, they're probably not going to start walking back in until September, October. You know what I mean? So, and all depends now on this variant nonsense that's going around. You don't know if that's going to be like, go back and then go back home kind of thing. You don't know what's going to happen yet. But the wedding, the problem with the wedding was it was on off for these brides. And it was just, it was really hectic for them because it's a very emotional experience, and then to say, oh yeah, you can do it. Oh no, sorry, you can't. Oh yeah, we'll reschedule for this date. I'm sorry, you still can't do it.
Yeah.
It just made it made it even more stressful for them. So I don't see the money flowing back quite as fast as you're saying in the video industry, but it's starting to. People are, I would say that they're past the antsy stage, and now they're really like, we're gonna just start planning things.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
we can't well, like we've stayed sheltered as long as we're going to. Now we're gonna start. And you can look at like football. They did the 2020 and 2021 Hall of Fame inductees last week or this weekend.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, so they're, people are starting, okay, well, we gotta keep moving. For
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
annual
No
events,
doubt.
these annual things. So we're getting the requests, and we're getting it. It's just unfortunately not as fast or as abundant as we'd like to. We're
Well,
getting through it, and we're getting by, but it's going to come. I'm faithful that it's, once we get through the summer, because I think a lot of people took vacations. A lot of people
yeah.
have been working remotely from their beach houses, from their second homes. Just because, look, if I got to do this, I might as well do it in a nicer place than I would normally be able to do it.
Yeah.
So once that for us, once that kind of they come back to their house in September, I think things will start to really open up again, and the businesses will start to because they're going to have to come back, somewhat into the offices. It may not be a full stretch that 100% of the people come back. They'll probably do a limited, like a flex where it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for certain people, and Tuesdays and Thursdays for other people, kind of thing, where they come back in the office. But team learning is still number one. I get that people have been productive from remote, but you know, putting people together, you just get a better productive kind of um I don't know, mindset,
Everything's
around
better. Yeah,
things.
everything's better in person. I mean, yeah, even
Yeah,
even podcast interviews.
sure.
Everything's better face to face.
Yeah.
We just do what we can. So, I want to move forward a little bit. I know you've got this super successful catering company, my man. But man, you have got just such an impressive resume, and I want to touch on your book. And before we get into the book, I want to know about your decision process in what it was that inspired you to make the book and inspired you to become an author. And then again, before we get into it, I want to know how the decision to become an author has helped change your business and how it's helped, accelerate your trajectory there.
So I wish I could tell you this really like ravishing story about wanting to write a book, but it, it actually, it was kind of like one of those moments where I had been sitting with my friends, smoking cigars, drinking some scotch, and they were like, "Look, dude, you keep helping all these people. You should just write a goddamn book and get it over with."
Hmm.
And I was like, and one day I was just like, you know what? I guess you're right. Maybe I should do this. I am not. So all throughout my academic career,
Hmm.
English and grammar and all that kind of stuff, reading books was just a huge Achilles heel for me.
Yeah.
I listen to podcasts. I'm an Audible reader. Where I listen to books, audibly. I read a few, but I'm more of an Audible guy. And it's just so when everybody's like, you should write a book, it kind of like makes me cringe. And even now that I've written a book, it's still not comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, because of just who I was as a person about English and grammar and
Hmm.
literature and that kind of stuff. And I wrote it in probably not a normal traditional way either. But it was just that you know I'm in the local chambers, helping everybody together as business owners. We all sit around and we're at networking events, and we're always helping each other out. And the people always like, you always have some of the greatest ideas. That's kind of how I got into the coaching, as well as because people were like, you really should get paid to be telling these people what you're telling them. And I was like, well, I had such a hard time, like getting to where I'm at. I just want to help people not have the problems I had.
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's what
you know what I
that's
mean?
what
Like,
inspires me to do it. Like,
yeah, it was more of like, it was such a crazy journey this crazy difficult journey that I just said, hey, I just want to, if I can help somebody, like not have one problem, one little problem that I had that equals 10 big problems, that's what it's about. And
yeah.
so we're again, we're just sitting around, and he's like, you should write a book about all this stuff, because people need to know this stuff, and you keep telling them, but you just you make them buy your book, and it's right there, and they can learn it. I was like, that's not such a bad idea. So one of my local friends here had already written his book, and it was a self-help book, kind of the 10 steps of whatever it was. I can't remember the title of the book, but great book. I bought probably 30, 40 books, handing them out to my employees, my family, my friends, my girlfriend, her kids. Like, this is a good book you should read. Like, it's just about, getting over your inner bullshit. Like,
Right.
the stuff you tell yourself that, you really can do, but you don't do. And
Do we all have
so I
that?
said, hey,
We all have
yeah.
that
And I was like,
bullshit.
hey,
Yeah.
how did you write this book? And he was like, well, look, I actually started this company where I help people write their books. And I'm like, all right, how much? So he tells me how much, and I'm like, all right, here, let me, I'll pay you. Let's get started. Well, that was probably a year before I actually started writing the book. So I kept kicking the can around. He had this great system of, like, he would send emails out to call you and start. And I kept telling him, oh yeah, I'm working on it. Oh yeah, I'm working on it, but I wasn't. You know what I mean? And I kept putting it off, and I kept putting it off, and I kept putting it off. And really, so I joined Apex because the 2020 mastermind got canceled in April.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Ryan gave us 10 times our money that we spent in his shopping cart. And I was like, well, I'm going to go to the next one anyway. That's a year from now, and I got this money. I might as well just spend it now. So I, talked to Drewby, and I signed up for Apex Entourage. I signed up for Phone Sites. Both of those were lifetime because of the money I could spend.
Right.
And so we started doing all that stuff. I started doing the G code every day and that kind of thing. And then I went to the first in-person meeting in Dallas in July, and they were asking me, what are some of the things I'm looking to do? What have you, what are you working on that you didn't get done? And I was like, well, there's this book. And they were like, oh, really? And Drew was like, yeah, I'm writing mine too. And I was like, yeah, I kind of just been bullshitting about it. And I had just started the podcast like in June,
Right.
with my buddy. So we were doing this stuff, and he's like, all right, well, our next meeting is in February, so you have to have the book done by February. And I was like, what? he's like, yeah. He was like, it's got to be done by February. And I'm like, oh shit, that's only like 7 months. I said, I've been kicking this can around for almost a year, and I got 7 months to finish it. Oh man, I just did it. So I wound up started writing, and that was really tough for me. Like, I can sit here and talk to you all day about business, you know what I mean? And it just rattles off my tongue. But,
Right.
like, to stop and start writing was really tough. So then I had this affirmation that I'm like, I got 8 podcasts already, and we're talking about business all day long.
Right.
So I told my partner, I said, look, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about these subjects, back and forth, and then and then I took them to rev.com, and they dictated them.
Yeah.
And I gave it to the guy who helped me write the book, and then he put it in the literal, and then I added some stuff to it, and that's kind of how we did the book. It was, once I got started, it was super easy once I figured out how it would work best for me.
Dude, that's exactly how I'm going to do mine. I mean, why do you think I'm doing these Friday fires? It's not for you, like.
It's cool.
It's for the book.
I love it. I mean,
it's for the book,
and
man.
it's, but right, but there's other people out there that just go right, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you can do that, you have superhuman powers to me. You know what I mean?
Amen.
Because I can't write on it. I just can't sit and write. But I can sit here and gab all day with you, and we can talk about 100 different business concepts and 100 different reasons.
Well, I'm gonna put you on the spot. So the book's name is Destination Success, same name as your podcast, by the way. Destination Success, 8 mindset hacks for every entrepreneur. Give me one mindset hack right now. Let's go. I'll put you on the spot.
Systems, man. You gotta have systems. And it's in the middle of the book. And
Amen. I'll agree 1,000%. But yeah, go on.
But you gotta have systems, because it all comes down to that. Because what we do every day, they say it all the time. What you do sometimes is what you do all the time. And if your system isn't right, some of the times it's not right all the time. And you always have to be adjusting it.
What is the most critical system throughout your company, if there was one system that you would say, hey, this one's the one that we tackle first and has been the absolute best, what's the most critical system? Is it hiring? Is it timekeeping? Is it what is it that you pin everything on, man? What's the foundation for guys that are listening to go, you know what, I need a system, I'm going to look into it?
You'd have to look at I don't think you can't just I mean, Thomas just preaches core values and that part of the system, but, and so that would be part of the hiring system, but you have to look at where you're at. Some people aren't in the hiring process yet.
That's true. Yeah.
Like I think really the number one system that you start out is from how do we go from customer to product to service?
Right.
Like, and I don't know what you do, but for me, it's customer, product to end service. Because in the catering business, so we have the customer, what they ordered, we build what they want, and then we service it and give it to them, and that's the end product. You have to have that seamless from the person that's talking on the phone that's taking the order to the person that's dropping the food off that didn't talk to the customer. You have to understand that every part of that is just got to be seamless, and it has to be done so that no matter who's doing it, everyone understands it. Because when you don't, that's when you have problems, because you always have a person that takes the order, and you always have a person that drops it off or or makes it and picks it up, kind of thing. So there's always that gap between the customer. So if everyone's not speaking the same language, again, here we go with languages. If everyone's not speaking the same language all the way through, there's always going to be an issue. And I'm going to tell you, throughout the 24 years of everything I've done, that's the system that I worked the most on, spent the most money, and continually work the hardest on, is making sure that process from beginning to end works seamlessly, because it just has to for the because at the end the customer doesn't give two shits why it broke down. They just care that I paid for X and I got Z. Why is this happening? I didn't get X. I wanted X. I didn't want Z. You know what I mean? And they don't care what happened in the middle, but that's as the owner, that's our process to make sure that no matter what happens, it always happens the same way. And once I figured that out, then I worked on the culture, and I worked on the seats on the bus, and I worked, because then that's critical, because you have to make sure that the people that are doing it in the middle are doing what they're good at and doing what they like to do. It's all about good and possible. Like they like what they do, they're good at what they do, and it's possible that they do what they do, so that the system runs effectively. And that's really for anybody doing anything. It doesn't matter what you're doing, because you have to have a customer. Somebody's got to pay for what you're doing. You know what I mean? And you got to make sure that, it's funny, because when you do this, once you figure this out in your system, and you go and you start buying things from other people, you are critiquing their system.
Oh, absolutely.
Second you start talking to them, you go, wow, this really sucks. Like, who thought about this? You know what I mean? Like, so I just started hiring VAs, and I just hired my first VA for me, and to get some stuff off my plate and do some other things. And which I should have done years ago. And if I'd have known this, I would have. But so hire VAs if you can. But so I hired a new cleaning company, and they obviously have a VA system that they use. And man, it's so clunky, because they send you all these text messages asking you questions that you should be answering. But when you answer, it doesn't go to anybody. It comes back with like a failed text. And I'm like, this is horrible. Like, I mean, a normal customer would be like, oh, wow, they're really communicating. But I'm like, but you're asking me a question and I'm answering it. And then you send another text asking me the same question again. Like, like, so here, as an owner, I'm critiquing how their system works, for them. Did they clean my house? They did a great job. But they bought this VA follow-up system so that you're effectively communicating to a customer, but you're not if you're asking a customer question, they answer it, and you can't get the answer. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really effective. It's just extra steps. So eventually somebody's going to get frustrated. You know what I mean? But yeah. So I kind of go off on tangents. I apologize.
Dude, no, it's half the fun of the show. I mean, this is valuable information.
But systems. I mean, I stress systems all the time to people. Systems is where you make money or you lose money.
Right.
Systems is where you're creating a great product, or you think you have a great product, but then if you don't ask the customers that really if this is a great product, you might think you have a great product, but by the time the customer gets it, it's not a great product. Well, so you have to always be checking your system.
I like what you said about looking at other people's stuff, and when you become a consumer, paying attention. And that's some, like, guys that are listening, that's some free information there for you guys to get a little market research. For example, if you're a real estate agent, go and sign up as a prospective client on 3 or 4 other real estate agents' websites. See if they call you, see if they text you, see if there's any contact, see what their emails say. And it's the same in anything. I want to be a better podcaster, so I go out and I listen to other podcasts. I look at other podcast websites and I style my stuff around it. So, like, you doing that and analyzing other people's systems ultimately helps you build better systems for yourself. So I'd highly recommend it. Plus, it's free, right?
Right. Yeah, you don't have to pay anybody to evaluate it. And just remember, like, nobody's creating anything new.
No.
There's nothing new in this universe. It's all just recycled, whatever it is. I mean, the food business is the biggest business there is in the world, and there's no new item on anybody's menu.
Right.
That's just a deviation of someone else's creation, and now it's just their creation because they deviated with 1 or 2 little things. But it's still chicken, it's still lamb,
Dude,
it's still beef, it's still pork, it's still whatever it is. It's just deviated.
When I first got here, mate, Mexican food was so confusing to me, because everything's got a different name, and it's all just meat, cheese, beans, and tortillas in a different order. I was so confused. I'm like, wait a minute, this is meat and tortillas, and this is meat and tortillas. What is going on here? They all call it the same thing.
Well, because they wanted to be something different and special, but it's really not. You know what I mean? Like, but that's like anything. Okay. So yes, there's some scientists out there.
Yeah.
Yes, there's some things. Obviously. Elon Musk is creating a battery in a car and a new revolution with that. But what I'm saying is, for 90% of everything out there, whatever it is you want to do, there's nothing new.
Right.
It's just your take and your polish, your spin, on how you're going to do it.
Exactly. And the phrase I like to cover this, mate, is that you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Just find a wheel that works and roll with it. I love that.
I love it too. I'm going to start using that.
Because everybody wants to come in, they want to be original, they want to reinvent the wheel, they want to do this. I'm like, look, if this wheel's rolling along here and this fella's making this much cash picking it off this wheel, that's obviously a proven wheel that works, that's relatively successful. So I'm going to dig into that and see what systems and processes I can take from that wheel and add them to my own. I'm not trying to create this from new. I'm trying to create one that works for me as well as possible.
Yeah.
Too many people, they get caught up in the minutia of trying to create new shit, when really they just need to take the stuff that's out there, refine it, and make it something that works for them.
Yeah. And I mean, look at the 2 of us. Ryan's not doing anything new. It's not new and earth shattering. You got 5 other guys that came before him.
Right.
You got Tony Robbins, you got Les Brown, you got oh my God, I can't even think of the big names. But I mean, he's just taking it and he's making it work for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he puts it together in his ball, and then he goes, okay, this is how we're gonna play. We're gonna play on the court. Like, this is the way I play. You know what I mean? But it's the same shit. Do the work. Here's the process. I'm showing a process. Do the work. And if you do the work, this is the results. And it's no different.
Exactly. And I think the reason that we're drawn to what he teaches is because he teaches it in a way that resonates more with us as entrepreneurs than it does with regular people. And just find a wheel that works, take the parts of it that work for you and the bits you like, and then you just roll with it and you build. So
absolutely.
Oh man, I'm reading this bio here. Cigar enthusiast. I am a cigar enthusiast for sure. But it says here, favorite book, The 4 Agreements. Let's jump on that for just a minute. We've got a few minutes left on the show. Let's jump on The 4 Agreements. This has crossed my radar now probably about 6 times in the last 4 weeks. So what was it about The 4 Agreements that struck you and made it your favorite book, man?
So I was struggling personally with just who I was and how I had already basically, I've kind of closed down the cleaning business and the property management company. I was 2 or 3 years into the catering company, and I was going through some personal things, trying to figure out why is it that I have a really strong business ethic. I bust ass in business, but then the people around me just don't stick around, whether it's employees or anything else. Like, what is it that I'm doing?
Oh
And
man, yeah. Now I haven't read this yet. It's come across my desk so many times,
yeah.
but I haven't
So
read
the
read
four
it.
agreements, the biggest one is that, it's basically it's like you just don't take shit personally. You know what I mean? And I think that was the biggest thing that I was doing is that I took everything personal. Like
Hmm.
it was always me against the world, and it was always either my way or no way, kind of thing. And I just really had to learn to be a little more humble, a little more grateful. And it's a quick, easy read, and I think every time I read it, I get something else out of it. You know what I mean? Like it's not difficult, it's not hard. It's not earth-shattering philosophies. It's just basic shit that like every time you read it, you're in a different like space and time of your life,
Right,
and
right.
you're like, hey, you know what? That's right. I should really be focused on that a little bit more now because that's where I'm at. And at the time, it was just like you got to stop taking shit personal. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, wow, like what a simple statement, but wow, how it really, it transformed who I was and what I was doing. It didn't happen overnight. I was doing a lot of crazy shit like firewalking, walking on glass, and being coached, on a weekly basis
I can't
to
imagine that
really.
being very comfortable, to be honest.
It's awesome, brother. You gotta
Firewalking?
walk on some coals, man.
Nah,
It's
dude.
awesome.
Like, where does your mind go when you do that? What comes
So
out of
so
that
that's
for you? Because
exactly
yeah, that
that's
was
the that's the exact work on it is that your mind your if you your mind is what tells you what you can and cannot do. And if you train your mind that your mind says that it's okay that I walk on coals that are 1800 degrees, you can train your mind to do anything.
yes, but
And that's really what it is.
what does your skin say?
My skin said nothing. It
I'm
didn't burn.
so wow. Well, I'm gonna have to watch some videos and do some research on that because I know if if I dropped something on my foot that was 1800 degrees, I would probably swear. Yeah, I remember
You would, but
I
but
remember
it's a different
welding.
mindset.
I've
You're
had
you're
welding
training your body
slag.
for it.
I've had welding slag melt through my trainers and burn a hole in my sock, and yeah, I swore. So, man, firewalking. I'm gonna have that
Yeah,
add
man.
that to the list of things to do. But in all honesty, in all seriousness, I have added the 4 agreements to my
It's a
list of
great read, dude. I highly
books.
recommend it for anybody that's just kind of like searching around trying to figure themselves out. Like it's a really good book to help you with that. And it's very very easy, and it makes a lot of sense. It's not it's a really quick and easy read to get your head in the right spot.
All right, my man. Well, we got a couple more questions for you, and then I'm going to
All right,
bounce you
cool.
out of here because we're running up on time. I asked this to the majority of my guests, but if Sherm now, at late 40s Sherm, could run back in time a minute and talk to early to mid 20s Sherm,
Phew.
what kind of advice would you give him?
Wow.
That's what it's
There's a
about,
lot of
man.
advice.
It's
One.
about
So the first, yeah. So the
yeah.
first one is get out of your own fucking way. Like you are your biggest you are your biggest problem.
Yep.
Like get out of
Amen,
your own
dude.
goddamn way. The second is don't quit. So when the real estate kind of shit, I was like, maybe this is a good sign, and I should have never quit. Um, like just seek out. I should have sought out help quicker because I didn't seek out until my probably mid 30s
Yeah.
about me and fixing me.
Yeah.
About the whole thing.
That was a
Um,
big one for me. Don't
it
be
was
afraid to
huge.
ask for help. Yeah, so many
Yeah,
people they want to carry it by themselves, and I think maybe that's pride. Maybe that's them getting
it
in
is
their own
pride.
way.
It is pride. It was
Yeah.
all about pride. I shit on some like I went from zero to big money quick
Hmm.
in my mid 20s, and I shit on a lot of people
Oh man.
because I had made it. In my
Yeah.
eyes, I had made it, and
Hmm.
and I just didn't learn. I didn't learn to be grateful, and I didn't learn to be humble, and that was a huge thing. Like I was again, it was just getting out of my own goddamn way. Like I just you know I needed to I would go back and start what I started in my mid 30s. Started right then. As soon as I got out of the Navy, I would have started doing that, get myself together, get my shit together. Because I tried to do it a couple different times, and But you know what they say? I mean, you asked this question, but if I'd have done it in my 20s, would I be where I'm at almost 50 now? I'll be 50 in January. So if I'd have done this when I was in my mid 20s, would I be where I'm at today? You know what I mean? Like you said, we learn the most in our struggle.
Yeah.
There's certain stuff that I would have done differently just because it was just stupid things that I shouldn't have done. But overall, I've learned from every single one of those experiences on to be a better person, to how to be a better person, to why I want to be a better person. And if you don't go through that shit, you know what I mean? Like, I hear the question and I get the question, and I get the question because it's like, hey, do this now. I'm in my 20s. I should be doing this now. Yeah. You should be working on yourself. You should be busting your ass to if you guys don't, if you're listening to this and you're not part of the G code, ask Sam to send you the link to because it's free. Ryan gives it out to everyone for free. Start being grateful. Find gratitude in everything you do every day. Start now, and it's and then I think the biggest thing in that G code thing, and it's only the biggest because I had already found gratefulness way before I found the G code.
Dude, I hadn't. The gratitude fucking, it changed everything for me.
Right.
But, yeah.
Well, I had already been doing that. So when I got coached, 15 years ago, that was the first thing, every day, find 3 things you're grateful for. He makes it 5, and that's awesome. It doesn't matter how many it is. But the funny thing is when you first start this, when you're doing this, your life coaching and stuff, it's 3 different things. You can't repeat anything for the first month.
Oh, so, wow.
So, and what that does is it trains your mind to find the goodness in your life versus, it's easy to go, oh yeah, I'm grateful for my kids, my wife, my coworkers, blah blah. But that's it. You can't use them again.
Dude, you shit on my gratefulness. You shit on it. My kids are there. My friends, my coworkers, my businesses. I'm grateful for all of it.
Right, but the point is so now tomorrow you have to find something. You have to be. So
I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna do that for 30 days, man. I'm gonna switch that up. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So and what it does is it just helps you search for better things.
Yeah.
Because your mind is looking for what you tell your mind to look for. You know what I mean? But to get to my point of that is that I think what I didn't do the most is you don't celebrate your wins. And I really like that in the G code is that you're looking every day to find the wins. And people go small, big, large. It really upsets me when people have to define, when we're in our groups that, hey, I'm ringing the bell. It might not be the biggest bullshit, man. Your ring the bell should be about you. It shouldn't be about me or you, Sam, or you, Drewby, or you, Tom, or you, Joe, or you, Sarah. It's about me. My process today is that this is a big fucking win. It may not be a big one for you, but and it's not about you. It's about my process from A to B and B to C and C to D. And today I got to C+, and this is a huge win because we've been trying to get this shit done for 4 months, and now I got it done today. You see, what I mean? So it's a big, and it doesn't matter what that thing is. It's just, it's something, and that's what it is.
I think most people shit on their wins because they're comparing it to other people's wins. So let's just say, for example, I have a $500 win and I'm in a good mood and I walk down the street and I bump into somebody that's just had a $5,000 win. All of a sudden, that changes my perspective on my $500 win. Whereas before I'd run into him, I was very happy and very content, and now I'm annoyed. So I always say, don't look at other people's plates. Judge your wins by what's good for you and what happened to you yesterday. And are you advancing from where you were to where you want to go? And those are wins, man. And
exactly.
I'm terrible.
I agree with that
100%.
It's awesome, and we should always, because it's funny. It took me almost 6 years into being in the catering business to actually pick my head up and realize I was awarded the entrepreneur year of the local chamber, and I picked my head up, if I could feel myself doing this, where I pick mine up and I go, holy shit, all these people are actually paying attention to me, because as an entrepreneur, you're in it, you're digging, you're grinding, you're just getting through the motions every single day. And I was like, I'm not really picking up my head, figuring out where I'm at. I'm just in the middle of the ocean and I'm just swimming, and I'm just swimming as hard as I can. And then all of a sudden I look up and I'm like, I'm halfway across the Atlantic. I didn't even realize it. You know what I mean? It's that kind of feeling you had. And I'm like, and then all I did was after that is I put my head back down in the water and I started swimming again. And then when I got to the G code thing, and it came up with that, and that's only been 2 years now. So you're talking 20 some years of me just grinding every day, not worrying about my wins. And I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I don't know why I wasn't doing this before. Like,
Yeah.
just post down some, some wins, like, hey, we were looking to do this and this and this week, and we did it. It's a win. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be measured in dollars. It doesn't have to be measured in like physical things. It's just like, hey, we wanted to get A, B, and C done, and we got them all done this week. It's a win. You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes you can't get A, B, and C done because life happens. You know what I mean? And shit turns. But that's, you gotta celebrate those wins. That's huge. They're the two biggest things on that G code thing is that you're looking for gratitude, which means you're looking for happy, better stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that once you find it and you do it and the process is working and you're getting those wins, that you're celebrating those wins. And that's another chapter in my book, because that's the other thing that I thought is huge for us, that we grind, that we should be celebrating our wins when we win and when we're getting there.
Dude, because I couldn't agree more.
We're super critical on ourselves about not getting there.
Yeah.
So when we get there, we gotta celebrate that we get there.
Yes, like absolutely. I mean, you're always chasing this moving target called happiness, and if you actually stop and look at all the things that you've accomplished over the last day, over the last week, the last month, and give thanks for that and be grateful for it, happiness just appears. You don't have to chase it anymore, and you can live happy and be happy. Sherm, my man, we've run out of time. However, I got one more question for you. You are a wonderful, wonderful human being. You've been a great guest, man, and the author of Destination Success, 8 Mindset Hacks for Every Entrepreneur, and the co-host of the Destination Success podcast. Where can we find you online? Where can my guys go and follow along with you and listen to your work?
So online, you go to Facebook and it's Destination Success, and that's where the podcast is. And we have our little group there that we put some things up, some quotes every day, stuff like that. And then I'm on Instagram, but I don't do that a lot on Instagram. So I would just go to Destination Success right now on Facebook, and that's a good place to get started. And we put out a podcast every week, just like you do.
Yeah.
And and then I put out some other videos in between there, in between Mike and I doing the podcast, and then it's just it's fun, man. I'm just here to help us in any way possible. It's just about getting through this together as entrepreneurs.
Well, brother, it's been a wonderful show, and it's been an absolute privilege to interview you, man. Thank you so much for coming on, guys.
Absolutely, Sam.
That has been Sherm Porter. Go run and check his stuff out. Destination Success over on Facebook. We will put, obviously, the links in the show notes. And as always, guys, we do this show for free, but there is a fee. I ask that if you have found something on here that you found useful, something you've liked, you've enjoyed, maybe we made you laugh, maybe we made you cringe, maybe it is something your friends need to hear, do us a favor, go ahead and screenshot it, share it in your stories, tag me in the comments at Small Business Surgeon on Instagram, hit the subscribe button, do all that good stuff for us. And as always, you'll have a wonderful week. Stay safe, and I will see you for Friday Fire. Thanks again, Sherm. It's been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you all next week. Take care.